Something we see that's also a unique characteristic in John's Gospel are the fact that Christ is recorded as doing many miracles, and yet John selects only 7 miracles, less than all the other Gospels. It's because John wanted to choose miracles to make points, to accentuate something about the Savior, to draw us into a relationship of greater intimacy and understanding of who Jesus was. And so as we're following Jesus through this gospel, we're going to encounter these 7 miracles that will teach us about who He is. And the beautiful thing about what John wants to do in the miracles is to help us increase our connection to Christ. The key verse in the whole gospel is found in chapter 20 and verse 30. It says, Jesus did many other miraculous signs in the presence of His disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe in Jesus, who is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in His name. You see, when He talks about a sign, that these are given as a sign that you might believe in His name, He's emphasizing the fact that Christ, when I know Him, I want to follow Him. And when I know who He is, and if I question who He is, then those questions will evaporate in the reality of His miraculous presence. This Word became flesh, this pre-existing God before all creation is manifest in the miraculous display of who Jesus was. The 7 miracles illustrate to us that God cares about where you are. And when you feel like life's impossible, nothing can save me. Well, yes, there is. There's a God that works in impossible circumstances all the time. And that God will reveal Himself to you. You see, people throughout the gospel are distracted. They were distracted because Jesus was from Nazareth, and nothing good comes from Nazareth. That's in the first chapter. They were distracted because He did miracles on the Sabbath. That's in chapter 5 and 4. They were distracted because of who He hung out with. Prostitutes, sinners, all these people that are riffraff. You see, that's a distraction to somebody who's religious and overly concerned about what public opinion is. But Jesus wasn't concerned about public opinion. Jesus was concerned about people. And so we see Jesus meeting a flaky Pharisee. We see Jesus encounter with a divorcee, married and divorced 5 times to be exact. We see Jesus encountering people that are diseased and sick. We see Jesus interfacing with an adulterer. You see, when you're in those places, you don't really care about what day it is. You don't care where somebody's from. You just wonder if they care for you. And this unique characteristic in the Gospel of John tells us that Jesus meets people wherever they are. And He loves them to another place. That means He'll meet you where you are. And love you to another place. And the place that He wants to love you to is the place of His presence. The chambers of His presence. And when you come into His chambers and recognize that you're loved just for who you are, when you come into His chambers and realize He accepts you and forgives you, life changes. And those that met Him in that way wanted to follow Him all the way. That's our hope for you. That tonight you'll realize that as we embark on this series, we're going to have some fun. We're going to see some amazing stories about the God we call Jesus. And we're going to follow him to places of acceptance and greater healing and greater intimacy. And when you are in God's presence, it's like being all alone, having no one who's watching, and you feel like you can dance. You feel like you can sing. And you feel like you can confess. Because you know it's between you and him. And in his chambers, he invites you to come. So you would experience him fuller at a deep level of your heart that would change your life. Listen to this song. Enter his chambers. Let the darkness be dispelled by his light. Let your fear be overrun by his acceptance. Let his forgiveness wash away your guilt and shame. Enter his chambers.